Imagine an army of ATMs across the globe, all turning on the banks that own them and spitting out millions of dollars on command. This isn't a scene from a Hollywood movie. It's the true story of a new kind of crime, a digital heist that completely rewrote the rules of financial security. Now, there's no single official event called the $25 million ATM heist. That number is really a stand-in for a whole class of incredibly sophisticated, coordinated attacks that have stolen anywhere from a few million to a mind-boggling $45 million in a single operation. This is the story of how those heists work, how they were pulled off, and why they forced the entire financial industry to rethink everything it thought it knew about security. This is about more than just stolen money. It's about a fundamental shift in the cat-and-mouse game between global banks and the digital underworld. The story of how this all happened doesn't start with a gun or a getaway car. It starts with a simple click. An email, looking totally harmless, lands in the inbox of a mid-level bank employee. The subject line is boring. The sender looks legit. But attached to it is a file that's basically a digital Trojan horse. The moment it's opened, a silent invader is unleashed deep inside the bank's most trusted systems. That one click is the first domino in a chain reaction that ends with cash machines halfway across the world, literally throwing money onto the street for waiting criminals. This was the new face of bank robbery, and it exposed a vulnerability the banks never even saw coming. The setup, the old world and the new threat. For decades, robbing an ATM was a physical, messy business. It meant crowbars, explosives, or at its most advanced, a clumsy skimming device stuck over the card slot to steal data one person at a time. Banks got this threat. They built their ATMs like tiny vaults, reinforcing them against physical attacks. Their digital security, meanwhile, was all about building a perimeter, a giant fortified wall around their networks. They figured as long as the walls were strong, the kingdom was safe. The problem was, they were fighting the last war. The new enemy wasn't trying to break down the gates. They were already inside, invited right through the front door. The masterminds behind these new mega heists weren't the cliché lone wolf hackers in a dark basement. They were sophisticated, international criminal syndicates, structured like Fortune 500 companies. Think of groups like Carbonac and Cobalt, shadowy organizations with members from Russia, Ukraine, and across Eastern Europe. These weren't amateurs. They were specialists. There were coders who built custom malware. There were intrusion experts who mapped out the network breach for months. There were logistics coordinators managing a global operation. And on the ground, they had armies of money mules, the foot soldiers whose only job was to show up and grab the cash. Their motivation was brilliantly simple: maximum profit, minimum risk. Why risk a violent shootout for the few $1,000s inside a single ATM when you could digitally command hundreds of them from a keyboard, thousands of miles away? The target wasn't the customer's account anymore. It was the bank itself. Specifically, the massive reserves of cash banks keep on hand to stock their ATM networks. By hitting the bank's own plumbing, these syndicates could steal millions before a single customer even noticed their balance had changed. The inciting incident, the breach itself, was often disarmingly simple. The Carbonac syndicate, for example, were masters of the spear phishing email. They'd send perfectly crafted emails to bank employees, often disguised as official mail from a company they worked with. The attachments, usually innocent-looking Word docs or system updates, were packed with malware. An employee, just trying to do their job, would click the attachment, and the malware would silently install itself. That was the foothold. The digital skeleton key was in the lock. From that one compromised computer, the hackers had a tiny window into the bank's internal network. And unlike the old smash-and-grab robbers, their next move wasn't a mad dash for the money. It was patience. The heist, a symphony of global coordination. Once they were inside the network, the intruders moved like ghosts. Their first goal wasn't to steal, but to learn. For weeks, sometimes months, they would quietly map out the bank's entire digital infrastructure. They watched how employees worked, what software they used, and who had the keys to the kingdom, the highest levels of administrative access. They were hunting for the brain of the operation, the central servers that managed the ATM network. In many banking systems, especially those running on older, vulnerable software like Windows XP, these central servers were the single point of failure. Getting control of them was like finding the master switch for every cash machine the bank owned. The hackers would patiently escalate their privileges, hopping from one computer to the next until they had an administrator's account. From there, they could do pretty much whatever they wanted. Their main weapon was custom-built malware. Different heists used different tools with names like Plautus or Cutlet Maker, but they all worked on a similar, terrifying principle. This malware was a digital master key. Once they uploaded it to the ATM management server, it could send commands directly to the machines, bypassing all the normal security checks. It could tell an ATM to start dispensing cash on demand, a technique that became known as jackpotting. The most sophisticated versions were designed to be stealthy. After the cash was gone, the program would try to self-delete, erasing logs and wiping its own existence to make the investigation a forensic nightmare. With the weapon planted, the syndicate geared up for the grand finale, the coordinated cash out. This is where the sheer scale and organizational genius of these groups becomes clear. This wasn't one robbery in one city. It was a global synchronized symphony of theft. Picture a command center of hackers, maybe in Eastern Europe, watching a dashboard of compromised banks all over the world. Their logistics coordinators are on encrypted channels with teams of money mules, stationed in dozens of cities across continents from New York to Tokyo, London to Moscow. These mules are the physical part of this digital crime. They re-often low-level recruits who were just told to be at a specific ATM at a specific time. Then, the signal is given. The lead hackers hit go. Suddenly, in New York City, a mule gets a text on an encrypted app. He walks up to a designated ATM. He doesn't need a card. He might enter a special code on the keypad, or the machine might already be waiting for him. He hits a button, and the machine starts spitting out bill after bill until its cash cassettes are empty. He shoves the money into a backpack and walks to the next A on his list. At that exact moment, this same scene is playing out in 20 other cities around the world. In one of the most infamous real-world examples, the global heist of 2013 cruise made thousands of withdrawals from ATMs in New York City over just 10 hours, pulling out $2.4 million from that city alone as part of a larger $45 million global score. They moved with unbelievable speed and precision. The hackers, watching from their command center, could even see the withdrawals in real time. The whole operation was surgical. It didn't exploit a flaw in one ATM, but in the entire trusted network that connected them all. And because the money being stolen was the bank's own operational cash, the crime was virtually invisible until it was far, far too late. The aftermath, a system in crisis. The discovery of the crime was often as bizarre as the heist itself. No alarms went off. No customer accounts were flagged. The first sign something was wrong was usually a flood of confused reports that ATMs were running out of cash at a crazy rate. In one of the earliest incidents that exposed the Carbonak Group, a bank in Kyiv, Ukraine, only found out they'd been robbed after watching surveillance footage of an ATM randomly spitting cash out to anyone walking by. No card, no PIN, no interaction, just a machine giving away money. For bank executives and security teams, it was a moment of pure horror. The fortress they'd spent millions building had been hollowed out from the inside. Their own machines had been turned into weapons against them. The initial confusion quickly turned into a frantic, global investigation involving cybersecurity. Firms and law enforcement like Europol, and the FBI. But the investigators were chasing ghosts. The core hackers were shielded by layers of anonymity, operating from countries with no extradition treaties. The malware had often erased itself. The money was gone, laundered almost instantly through cryptocurrency or used to buy luxury goods. The only people who usually got caught were the low-level money mules, the most disposable part of the criminal enterprise. In the 2016 heist against Taiwan's first commercial bank, a sophisticated attack that netted over $2.5 million, authorities identified 22 suspects from 9 different countries. Only 3 were ever caught in Taiwan. The other 19 had already fled the country. The real impact of these heists wasn't just the millions stolen. It was the complete shattering of the financial industry's sense of security. This new type of attack forced the industry to confront some painful truths. First, it was the ultimate proof of concept. It showed criminal groups everywhere that hitting a bank's internal infrastructure was way more profitable and less risky than traditional bank robbery. This kicked off a wave of copycat attacks and accelerated the professionalization of cybercrime. Suddenly, hacking syndicates started operating like tech startups, even selling malware-as-a-service kits on dark web marketplaces. Less skilled criminals could now just rent the tools and expertise they needed to pull off their own jackpotting heists. Second, it forced a total overhaul of banking security philosophy. The old model of just building a big wall was dead. Banks realized they had to work on a zero-trust model, assuming that a breach wasn't a matter of if, but when. This led to huge investments in new defense strategies. Network segmentation became vital, making sure that even if one part of the network got hit, like an ATM controller, it couldn't be used to take down the whole system. Financial institutions were finally forced to accelerate hardware and software upgrades, retiring the ancient, insecure operating systems that made so many ATMs easy targets. They rolled out advanced, 24/7 monitoring systems designed to spot the kind of quiet, internal network chatter that signals a hacker is poking around. The industry also realized that no single bank could fight this threat alone. This led to unprecedented information sharing and collaboration between competing banks and global law enforcement. These heists were a brutal, expensive wake-up call. They exposed the dangerous gap between how fast technology was moving and how slowly security practices were evolving. The banking world had eagerly embraced the efficiency of a globally connected network, but it failed to grasp the scale of the vulnerabilities it created. The story of the multi-million-dollar ATM heist is more than just a high-tech crime story. It marks the moment the bank robber's toolkit officially changed from dynamite and shotguns to malware and phishing emails. It was a stunning demonstration of how a few clever people, armed with code and a deep understanding of a system's weaknesses, could hold a global financial institution hostage from halfway around the world. The attacks by groups like Carbonac didn't just steal money. They stole confidence. They proved that the systems we trust with our financial lives were a lot more fragile than anyone wanted to admit. The fallout from these heists is still being felt today. The defenses are stronger, the monitoring is smarter, and the collaboration is deeper. But the attackers are also more sophisticated. The digital war between criminal syndicates and the institutions protecting our money has become a permanent, ever-escalating arms race. These heists were a dramatic reminder that in the 21st century, the biggest threat might not be a masked man in the lobby, but a single line of malicious code, silently executing in the heart of the machine. The vault is no longer physical. It's digital, and the war for its control is far from over. If you found this look into the world of high-stakes cybercrime fascinating, subscribe for more stories like this one. We explore the cases, the tech, and the masterminds shaping the future of digital security and crime. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we uncover the hidden battles of our modern world.